Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 187 for the 27th of Iyar in a leap year. So last time we were talking about stained glass windows, and we were talking about the different light that shines through stained glass windows and how it is one light that goes through, but it is manifest, it is revealed to us in many different forms, as many different colors, many different levels of brightness. It could be more intense light, less intense light. We talked about light shows. We talked about how at a light show, there can give us these illusions of movement, of colors, of shapes and sizes and all kinds of different things. And it's all coming from one light. And we took this illustration of light and this discussion about light, and we used it to explain to us God's light, or God's flow of energy, so to speak, God's vitality, and how it is manifest in all the worlds. And we talked about how it is that God's vitality is equally present in all the worlds, equally, but yet it's revealed in some worlds a little bit more than in others, or in a different way than it is in others. Just like with the stained glass window, it's one light. It's the same light that goes through that window, but yet the way it manifests on the other side is going to be different depending on the pane of glass that it's going through. So now today we're going to talk about our world, and we're going to talk about how it is that this light manifests in our world, and how our world is really considered to be the most concealed of all of the world. So if we're talking about this idea of how there's different gradations of concealment and revelation in terms of the light, when it comes to our world, that's like if we could picture, like in the stained glass window analogy, we can think of maybe like a pane of glass which is almost entirely opaque, where it's like we shine the light through and it's like we kind of see the color of the thing, but it's like doesn't even look like light anymore. It's like we really just don't even see the light. Another way that maybe we can think about this that came to mind for me is like the idea of optical illusions, that we see things in one way. In an optical illusion, things appear to be one way, but yet what's really going on is so concealed from our perception that it's like not perceivable anymore. Even though that's not really what's going on. So that's what we're going to be learning about today. And today it is the end of chapter 51 of Likkutei Amarim. We're nearing the end of the book of Likkutei Amarim, and believe it or not. And so today we're going to talk about this idea of how it is that God's vitality can become so concealed and so opaque to the point that it actually creates the world in which we live, in which godliness is so concealed and so far removed from our immediate perception. So the Alter Rebbe begins today, and he says that these levushim, these vestments that we've been talking about, through which God vests and encloses and hides his light and his vitality, became so great and so intense to the point that he was able to create this physical world, this material physical world, and that God creates it and he animates it with a vitality and a light which he shines forth into this world. And this light is vested and hidden within many different vestments, and that these vestments are extremely intense, and they really conceal this light and this vitality a lot, to the point that we don't even see the light at all. We don't see the vitality. All we see are these physical objects. All we see is this coarse materiality that looks lifeless. So like I mentioned in the title of today, like a pet rock, like when you look, I think a pet rock is like the perfect example of that. When you look at a rock, it looks totally lifeless. There's nothing about it. It doesn't move. It doesn't breathe. It doesn't do anything. But yet what we learn in Tanya, and this is a big theme that comes up over and over again in Tanya, is that even this rock, even your pet rock, contains within it godliness. It's just that pet rock is like that opaque pane of glass through which the light is just like not shining through, like barely at all, if anything. But there is a light behind it. We just don't see it. And so the Alter Rebbe goes on and he says that even though we don't see this light inside of these physical objects that appear to be as if dead, there actually is this light and there actually is this vitality, which is bringing them into being something from nothing all the time, so that they will not go back to being not and nothing. And this light comes from the Infinite One, blessed be He. It's just that it comes about and it's vested in many different vestments. As is written in the Eitz Chaim, which is a Kabbalistic sefer, that the light and the vitality of the orb of the earth, this material earth that we live in, which we see, comes, where does it come from? It comes from Malchus of Asiyah. So this is going to get a little bit Kabbalistic, so just bear with me. And it's not too important to know exactly the terminology and know specifically what we're talking about here, but in brief, we've talked about this previously, how there's like a map, kind of a spiritual map of all the worlds. So, and there's a spiritual map of different energies. So when we talk about our world stems from the lowest world, which is the world of Asiya. So there's 4 main worlds. There's Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. You can go back and listen to previous episodes to get more of an understanding about what all those are. But for our purposes today, Asiya, what you need to know, that's the lowest of all the worlds. Not only does it come from Asiya, it comes from the Malchus of Asiya. What's the Malchus of Asiya? That's the lowest part of Asiya. Not only does it come from Malchus of Asiya, it comes from Malchus of Asiya. So that means that it comes from the lowest part of that world of Asiya. However, goes on, the Alter Rebbe goes on and he says, inside of that Malchus of Asiya is contained the Malchus of Yetzira, which Yetzira is that world that is one level up. So there's a connection here between all the worlds. They're not in isolation. There's like a chain kind of reactionary effect between each one of the worlds where they're feeding into each other. So within the Malchus of Asiya is contained the Malchus of Yetzira, etc. And so also in Malchus of Yetzira is also the Malchus of Bria, etc., which also contains the Malchus of Atzilus. So really they're all connected back up until ultimately what the Alter Rebbe is getting at, they all contain the 10 spheres of Atzilus, which Atzilus is that higher world. And that Atzilus that we talked about is what makes it different than all the other worlds and higher than all the worlds. It's totally unified with the emanator, with God himself. So just to recap that, basically to bring out the main points, I don't think it's so important to understand technically in detail what all those worlds are, at least not for today. The main point that the Alter Rebbe is bringing out is that even though we're here in this opaque world where godliness is truly, really, really concealed, we should know that God is still here. And we may not see it, but it's the same light that's being shown from, just like that stained glass window. There may be more opaque dressings here, more opaque vestments, but it's the same light that's coming through. And that light that we're getting, it's being vested in these vestments that come from the lowest of all worlds. But within that lowest of lowest world is enclosed a world that is slightly higher than that. And within that world is enclosed a world that is slightly higher than that, and so on and so forth. And so if you go back far enough, you can see that direct chain of events, that direct link back to the source itself, which is God. So I hope that was enlightening to you and interesting, and we will continue tomorrow when we move on to a new chapter 52, and I will speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow. And until then, have a great day.